This After Effects tutorial is sponsored by Skillshare. Hey guys, what's up? I am Nikhil from dopemotions.com, and in this After Effects tutorial, we will create a gaming logo animation inside of After Effects, that too without using any plugins. It's a super fun tutorial, have so many different techniques that we will cover today. So without any further ado, let's jump into After Effects and get started. And if you're watching my video for the very first time, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like that video, and also press the bell icon so you always get notified whenever I post a new video. With that said, let's jump into After Effects and get started. Alright, so here we are in After Effects. Let's start by creating a new composition. I'm going to keep it full HD, that is 1920 by 1080. Let's call this render as our main render comp, 30 fps and 10 seconds long. Hit OK. Let's create one more new composition, which is going to be our logo placeholder. So I'm going to call this logo here. So you can use any logo that you want. You can just simply drag and drop it here. So in the assets, I have my logo that I will be using. I'm going to hit S and scale this down a bit. All right. And by the way, you can download this free project file from the link in the description below to follow along with this tutorial. So there we have our logo. Let's go into our main rendering comp, or let's actually create a new comp. I'm going to call this, let's call this animation plus ref, that is animation plus reflection. Let's hit OK. And let's drag in our logo composition. I'm going to create a new null object, call this controller, and I'm going to align this simply into the center. Now if you don't see this align tab, you can find it under Windows Align, and this is the free anchor point mover that comes with Animation Composer. Or if you want to do it manually, you can simply select the layer, hold Control and double click on the pan behind tool. That should move your anchor point into the center, but it's a free script. I highly recommend you guys to go ahead and download it. I will mention the link in the description below. Now I'm going to turn on the collapse transformation for our logo. We can hide the controller and then parent the logo to this controller. If you don't see this parent option, you can click right over here in the small icon or the small area, go into columns and turn on parent and link. So that's that. And now we can animate our logo. So let's create a very simple animation. I'm going to select the controller, hit S to bring down the scale properties, scale this down to 0, create a keyframe, go to 1 second and 10 frames, set this to 200, and then go 2 second and 10 frames and set this to 100. So now we have a pretty simple animation as of now. Now let's create the reflection. So in order to do that, I'm going to just move right here, and let's select the rectangle tool from here. Make sure your fill is set to white and stroke is set to 0, and I'm going to create some squares basically just like so. And one maybe right over here. So something like this looks good. Now I can go into the rectangle and adjust the position of this. So I can just simply move them a bit closer like so. All right, that is looking good. I'm going to call this ref for reflection, and then simply go into effects and preset and search for set matte, because I only want this reflection to affect the logo. So I'm going to double click to apply that, and in the take matte from layer, I'm going to set this to logo. So now it's only visible on our logo, which is pretty nice. So I'm going to keep it somewhere around there and rotate it. So hit R and let's rotate this by around, I don't know, 15 degrees or maybe 20 degrees should be fine. All right, so hit P to bring down the position, create a keyframe, hit S to bring down the scale, create a keyframe, hit U so we can see all the keyframes. I'm going to go back to at the very start. Let's move this right over here and also scale this down to maybe 50%. Let's go to 2 second and 10 frames, move this out and scale this down to 50%. So basically now we have something which looks like this. And then I can change the blending mode of this. So I'm gonna hit F4 and let's set this blending mode to screen, or not screen, actually soft light. Yeah. So now it looks more like a reflection, as you can see. Pretty cool. That is looking pretty nice. Now I can select the controller, hit U so you can see all these keyframes. Select these keyframes, hit F9, or you can simply right click, go into keyframe assistant, easy ease them. Go into the graph editor and make sure you're working in the edit speed graph. Let's select this point and drag the handle holding shift to the left, and select this point, drag the handle holding shift to the right. So now if I preview this, we have a pretty nice animation. Now obviously there is a jump because I think I messed it up right here. So I'm going to make sure it's aligned up properly. All right, that is looking smooth. Pretty nice. Really happy with the way it's looking right now. Okay, so our reflection and animation is completed. Now let's jump on to our main Render comp. Let's drag in the animation plus reference composition. And here we have a really nice looking animation. Now I'm going to make this 3D. Let's jump to 1 second and 10 frames. And let's add some rotations. I'm going to select this, hit R to bring down the rotation properties. And let's set the X rotation to -18 and the Y rotation to, let's go something like 23 degrees. All right. And let's create a keyframe on the X and the Y. Let's go back and set them back to 0 and this one to 0. Let's go to 2 second and 10 frames and set them back to 0. So now as they come closer, it rotates and then it sets back. Now again, I can select these keyframes. I can hit F9 or right click, go into keyframe assistant, easy ease, go into the graph editor and do the same exact movement for this. And now let's see. Yep, as you can see, this is looking pretty cool. But now one thing that is missing is the depth. So I want to create a depth of field or a fake focus blur on this logo. So in order to do that, I can create a blur map. So I'm going to create a new composition called this blur map. I'm going to hit OK. Let's hit Control Y to create a new solid, make this white. And let's create a new shape. I'm going to make this black. All right, let's make this be nice and big like so. I'm going to align this into the center and then rotate it by a few degrees like so. All right, let's go into effects and preset, search for Gaussian blur, apply that, and let's increase the blur amount really high like so. All right, so now let's go back, create a new adjustment layer, call this blur, and I will be using the camera lens blur from the effects and presets. And now in the blur map layer, I'm going to set the blur map. So first of all, let's drag and drop in the blur map, hide that, and then go into effects and preset. And let's set this to blur map, and boom. Now if I increase this, we get a really nice depth. So I can set this to around maybe 12, looks good. And let's animate this. I'm going to go to 1 second and 10 frames, create a keyframe on the blur radius as well as the focal distance. Let's go back and set this to 0, and let's hit U so we can see actually the keyframes. Let's create a keyframe right here. So now it animates like so, and then at 2 second and 10 frames, I'm going to set this back to 0, and everything is looking good. Maybe right here I want to increase the focus distance so that our logo gets blurred out. So and I'm going to move this keyframe right here. So right now it's blurred out and comes in into focus, and then boom. Pretty nice. We can also increase the intensity. I think let's go with 15. That looks much better, I think. Pretty nice. And the best part is that you can also enable the motion blur, which is going to make things look much more smoother. So let's preview this really quick. And yeah, really happy with the result. Pretty nice. Now again, I have to select the keyframes, hit F9 or right click keyframe assistant, easy ease, go into the graph and let's tweak them. So I'm going to move this to the left and move this one to the right. So now we have a much more smoother look. Pretty awesome. Really happy with this. Now let's add some more detail to this. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a new composition called this edges. Let's hit OK, drag and drop in the animation plus reference. And I'm going to hit Control Y to create a new solid called this Fractals. Let's go into effects and preset and search for fractal noise. Double click to apply that. Let's bring up the contrast to around 800 and bring down the brightness to minus 500. And create a keyframe on the brightness. Go to 1 second and 10 frames. Set the brightness to 0 and let's leave the contrast as it is. Let's hit U. I'll go to 2 second and 10 frames. Set the brightness to minus 700. Also bring down the complexity down to 3. So right now we have something like this. Looks pretty cool, but we also want to animate the scale property here. So I'm going to go right here. Let's scale this up to around maybe 300. I don't know. Create a keyframe on the scale. Go back. Set this to 50. Go right here and set this to 50. So now we have a scale animation as well. Looks pretty nice. Looking pretty good. And I also want to keep the animating the evolution, so I can simply use a simple expression. So I'm going to hold Alt and click on the stopwatch. Let's type in time times 200. So it's going to keep on evoluting. That's not even a word, I think. So it keeps on animating the evolution, which looks pretty cool. And then I'm going to select the animation and reference layer, set the track matte to Luma matte, and set the blending mode of this to add actually. And then make sure it's selected, go into effects and preset and search for find edges. So I'm going to double click to apply that, invert it, and boom, there we have a really interesting look. Now I'm going to play around with the fractal a little bit because I think it's way too big, and I'm going to increase the complexity a bit more. So it looks something like that. And yeah, let's set this to 6 actually. And we can adjust the scaling, so maybe a bit more like so. So yeah, that is actually looking pretty good. Before I proceed further with this tutorial, let's take a look at today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives where millions come together to take the next step in their creative journey. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creatives and curious people on topics including illustration, design, photography, video, freelancing, and more. Skillshare offers class designed for real life, so you can move your creative journey forward without putting life on hold. You can check out this animation course for motion design on Skillshare to learn more about motion graphics and animation. Skillshare is also incredibly affordable, especially when compared to pricey in-person classes and workshops. The first 1,000 people who uses the link in my description will receive 1 month free trial of Skillshare Premium. So now I'm going to duplicate this. So hit Control D to duplicate it, and let's replace this with the edge layer. So I'm gonna hold Alt and click and just drag and drop it. Let's move this onto the top and set the blending layer to add. So now you can see we get this really nice edges as it get closer, and then it fades out. Now obviously I have to go into the edges. Let's hit U so we can see all the keyframes that we have. Select them, Right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease them, go into the graph and let's add the same movement. So now let's go back into our main render comp and let's see the preview. And I think it's looking damn cool, to be honest. So I set this to full so you get a better idea. It looks pretty sleek. Now you can get some weird colors with the fine edges. So if you don't need that, you can simply go into effects and preset and add a hue and saturation on this. And that should fix it. Let's set this to colorize. And boom, there we have some white edges. If you want, you can add any color, specific color. So let's say if I want to go with a nice blue tint, maybe. Yeah, I can even go with a blue color, I think, instead of white. That will look even more cooler, I think. Yeah, that looks much better to me. So that's that. Now let's create a new adjustment layer and let's add some nice glow to this. Also, I'm gonna hit Control Y, call this BG. Let's add a black background. Make sure you, whenever you're working with glows, you have a black background or any background. Just don't keep it empty. So I'm gonna go into effects and presets, search for glow, and let's add the default glow that we get. I'm gonna set this very minimal, like 0.5, and increase the blur radius to 200 or something. And let's set this to 75. All right. And very important step, hold Alt and switch to 32 bits. So we get much more better glows. I'm gonna bring that down probably 0.3 or something. Gonna keep it very, very subtle. So something like 80% and set this to 250, play around with these numbers. And then also keyframe the glow. So I'm gonna jump to 1 second and 10 frames, create a keyframe on the glow intensity, go back to 1 second, 13 frames probably, set this to 0, hit U, go to 2 second and 10 frames, and let's copy this keyframe, Control C, Control V, select the keyframes, right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease them, and the same exact process basically. So there we have very nice glows as well. Now finally, when the logo settles down at 2 second and 10 frame, I'm gonna add some particles to this. I can go into assets, and again you can download this project file from the link in the description. Set the stretch to 50%. Now by the way, if you don't see the stretch option, you can again right click, go into columns and turn this on, and then let's drag and drop it, set this to 50% as well, and let's see where it starts. So somewhere around there. And also make sure you turn the blending mode, switch the blending mode to screen for this one, that is the swipes. Let's go back and let's properly align it with the timing. Boom. So it settles down. Boom. Pretty nice. Now you can obviously go ahead and let's add a tint effect on this to add some color. And I'm going to select this blue, nice blue color, and keep a combination of blue and white. Looks pretty damn cool. And finally, at 1 second and 10 frames, I can add some text in the background to make it look a bit more like, give those gaming vibes to this. So it's very simple. Let's select the text tool. Let's type in whatever text that you want to type in. I'm going to type in Rhino Shield. So I'm going to type in Rhino. And for the font, I'm using the Swipe Raise demo. I have mentioned the link in the description if you want to use the same exact font. And let's align this. Let's go into effects and preset and search for gradient ramp. There we go. And let's move this point like so, this one like so. For the black one, I'm going to go with a nice light blue color. And for this one, let's go with a nice darker blue look. Looks pretty cool. And let's animate this. Hit P to bring down the position, create a keyframe, go back, and let's move them like so. Also, one thing I forgot is to duplicate this. So hit Control D to duplicate it. And let's hit P, select the keyframes, and I'm going to move this down. Also, make sure you move the gradient ramp as well with this. So I'm going to type in Rhino Shield. and then go right over here. Let's move the shield to the opposite side like so. So we have something like this. Go to 2 second and let's go to actually 2 seconds and move this one right over here and move this one right over here. Let's select the keyframes and I'm gonna right click keyframe assistant, easy ease them, and again the same movement. So now it's like boom, pretty nice. I can maybe increase the timing of this. Let's put them below everything like so, and then I'm gonna create a new null object. Okay, let's align this into the center, call this ROT for rotation of our text. So I'm going to select the text layers, parent them to this null and hit R and rotate them a little bit like so. So now we have this really cool look basically. And also make sure you turn on motion blur for this text. So I'm going to select them, turn on the motion blur. So we have a very nice motion blur. You can see looks pretty damn cool. Very, very nice. And boom, there we go. There we have our gaming logo animation inside of After Effects, that too without using any plugins. So I know it's a bit long video, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. We cover so many different effects and techniques inside this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and like this video. You can also support me on Patreon by just donating $1 and you can get access to some amazing exclusive stuff. With that said, I will see you guys in the next video. And you can also follow me on Instagram. We have just crossed 100,000 followers, which is absolutely mind bending. Really happy for this. So make sure you check it out. I have mentioned the link in the description below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Till then, take care and always stay raw, stay creative. Peace out.